this is Seema and I'm back with a new lesson on how about versus what about. Well, both these expressions are question words, okay? So remember that you will always use either of these expressions only when you are asking a question, okay? So remember, this comes with a huge question mark, okay? And also remember that how about and what about is always used at the start of a sentence. It's not going to be in the middle of the sentence. It's not going to be at the end. It's a question word used always at the beginning of the sentence. However, while talking to my students and other people in general, I found out that a lot of people, including teachers sometimes, make a very common mistake by using both these expressions interchangeably. I mean, they use it as if both these expressions could be used at the same time in the same way. But that is incorrect English. You cannot use how about and what about in the same way, in the same manner, okay? Because there is a real difference between the two. And I will tell you what is that difference. When you are using how about, you are going to use it firstly when you are making a suggestion. So when there are suggestions involved, you will use how about. Suggestion means advice, recommendation, or your opinion, okay? So let's have a look at an example. My sentence says, how about a short vacation to the Hawaii? Is that a suggestion? Is that an advice or a recommendation? Yes, it is. So therefore I use how about. Now I cannot say what about a short vacation to the Hawaii. That is very, very incorrect English, right? So we will always stick to how about when we are talking about suggestions. How about a short vacation to the Hawaii? How about a road trip to the north? Okay, suggestion, advice, opinion, recommendation. Always stick with the how about. Okay, the second way of using how about is when you are going to talk about possibilities. Okay, well, there are numerous possibilities, right? Possibilities basically means something that is bound to happen or something that is very, very possible, right? Or something that has a very high chance of occurring, right? So our sentence says, how about applying for that job at the bank? Okay, so you have a possibility or a chance to apply for that job at the bank. It could be the job of a human resource manager or a clerk or anybody at the bank, and you think it is possible that you can get the job. You think it is possible that you can do something, and therefore your question always starts with a how about. Okay, or I could say, how about we go for a movie tomorrow? Is that a possibility? That could also be a suggestion, right? So therefore you will use how about. Please remember, you can't use what about when you are talking about suggestions or possibilities. It's always going to be how about, okay? Now, when do you use what about then? What about is used when you are talking about a potential problem or an objection. Okay, now remember, what about is mainly used in response to something that is said. So something could be said to you, but then you see a potential problem or you want to make an objection, which is why you use your question starting with what about. So somebody asks you, can you come out with me for dinner at 7 o'clock in the evening? You will say, what about my English class that falls on the same time? You see what's happened here? There is a potential problem. You cannot come at 7 o'clock because you have perceived a problem that doesn't allow you to do that thing at that time. The problem is that you have an English class at that same time. So therefore you will say, what about my English class at the same time? How can I come to dinner at that time? Right? That's a potential problem. Also, when you are objecting or when you are placing an objection to something that is said to you, so someone may ask you, Can you come to my house alone? Well, you may say, what about your parents? You know, we're supposed to be at someone's house alone. But what about your parents? Won't they be there at home at the same time? A potential problem or an objection. Okay, so in these cases, you will never use how about your parents or what about your English class or how about your English class. It's always going to be what about, because you're talking about a potential problem or an objection. So therefore, you will use what about in a question as a response to something that is said when you want to present a potential problem or an objection in response to what is said. Okay, now there is sometimes when how about and what about can be used interchangeably. And when is that? This is the golden rule. Okay, when someone or when you are asking some person about what they are doing or feeling, there's one question that can sum it up. In fact, two questions that can sum it up. What about you or how about you? They can be used when you are asking someone about what they're doing or what they're feeling. So I could say something like, I'm having lunch. What about you? So what am I asking? I'm asking that person, what are you doing? What about you? I am not feeling very well. What about you? That could also apply to, how are you feeling right now? The same goes for a question like, how about you? I am studying math. How about you? Meaning, I'm asking the person what he or she is doing. Or I could say, I am feeling very dizzy after going on the ride. Okay, I would ask them, how about you? Which means I'm asking them, how are they feeling? So as you can see, both these questions can be used when you are asking someone about how they are feeling or what they are doing. Okay, so that's the only rule which applies to both these words used together or interchangeably. Okay, that's it from me on this lesson on how about versus what about. I hope you found it very interesting and very informative. I'll be back with some more lessons. Until then, this is me saying goodbye.